My father said the wine was special. 45 minutes later, he was the one gasping for air. My name is Marcus Ellison. I'm 34 years old. I live alone in a sleek penthouse apartment that overlooks downtown Seattle, glass windows, curated furniture, minimalist walls that echo with silence. Last year, I sold my software startup for $5 million. Enough to disappear if I wanted. Enough to never answer to another person again. Enough to live a life of absolute freedom. But I don't feel free. Not with the weight of my past. Not with the shadow of my father still looming behind every memory. My father, Gerald Ellison, was once a respected real estate mogul. Back in the day, his face graced the business section of local newspapers. He had charm, sharp suits, and a presence that could silence a room. But beneath that surface, there was a rot no headline ever touched. When the market crashed and his empire collapsed, so did the mask. He became bitter, possessive, not over his businesses, but over me. To him, I wasn't a son. I was a lifeline. A walking vault. A financial backup plan with a beating heart. He never hit me as an adult. He didn't need to. The bruises from my childhood were still healing, if healing is even the right word. I remember being 8 years old, yanked out of bed because I forgot to put his whiskey glass in the dishwasher. He reeked of gin and failure. I remember the sting of his belt. The cold slap of his words. A man toughens up or dies poor. That was his gospel. But there was always one light in the tunnel. My mother, Lillian. She made the horror bearable. And today was her birthday. I stood in front of my mirror, wearing the dark green shirt she loved on me. The one she'd ironed when I was still in college. I hadn't worn it in years, but something told me I should today. Like armor. She still lived in that old 2-story craftsman home in San Mateo. The same one where I grew up. The one where my memories either smelled like her lavender tea, or his rage. The drive down was quiet. Just me and the road. I kept the radio on, but even jazz couldn't drown the storm inside my head. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw her waiting on the porch. Lillian Ellison. 60 years old. Still graceful. Still warm. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled into a soft bun, and her eyes lit up the moment she saw me. "Marcus," she called out, arms wide. "You're here." She hugged me like she hadn't seen me in years, even though we spoke almost daily. Her hugs were the kind that wrapped around your soul, not just your shoulders. The backyard was glowing, lanterns strung between trees, soft jazz floating through the air, cousins and uncles I hadn't seen in months sharing stories over lemon cake. She was the sun at the center of it all. And then there was the eclipse. My father stood in the far corner, holding a glass of red wine, surveying the scene like a king with a crown no one believed in anymore. Still dressed sharply. Still proud. But his smile? It never reached his eyes. I tried to avoid him. Made small talk with cousins, cracked forced jokes with Aunt May. But I could feel his gaze on me. Like a cold hand resting on my neck. Then I heard it. "Marcus." His voice sliced through the music. He approached with slow, deliberate steps, carrying 2 glasses of wine. "Have a drink with your old man. This one's special." That word, special, landed in my gut like a rock. Still, I took the glass. My mother was nearby, laughing with guests. I didn't want to cause a scene. So I smiled and raised the glass. Took a sip. The wine was dry, slightly bitter. Nothing unusual. But my father's expression? That smug, satisfied smirk? It told a different story. Minutes later, the world started spinning. Laughter turned into echoes. My hands grew clammy. My breath shallow. I tried to call out to my mom, but my lips couldn't form the words. My knees buckled. The glass slipped from my hand and shattered against the grass. When I woke up, I was in my childhood bedroom. Lying on the same creaky bed where I used to dream of escape. My mother sat beside me, gripping my hand as if trying to will my soul back into my body. "Marcus," she said, tears streaking down her cheeks. "Oh, thank God. You scared me. What happened?" I mumbled. My throat was dry. My limbs heavy. She stroked my hair gently. "You collapsed. Gerald said you drank too much, but I know that's not true. You only had one glass, didn't you?" I nodded. And then I saw the fear in her eyes morph into something else, recognition. "This happened before," she whispered. "My father." I looked at her, confused. She turned toward the window, watching the garden below where I had fallen. My father collapsed like that. After a night drinking with Gerald. No health problems. He just never woke up. They said heart attack, but I sat up slowly, dread crawling through my veins. "You think he poisoned him?" I asked. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. We both knew. I drove home the next morning with a hurricane inside my chest. I had no proof. Only a memory. A gut feeling. A single word, special. But that was enough. Weeks passed. Then Thanksgiving arrived. My mother called. "Please come home, Marcus. Just for dinner." I almost said no. But I couldn't turn my back on her. So I returned. The same smell of roasted turkey. The same warmth in her hug. But under it all, the same chill in the air when he entered the room. My father, dressed in a gray suit, handed me another glass of wine. He raised his glass. To family. To legacy. He handed me mine and smirked. "Drink, Marcus. This one's special." This time, I didn't drink. I bent down, pretended to tie my shoe, and swapped our glasses. 45 minutes later, he collapsed. Same symptoms. Same fall. Same shattering glass. The EMTs arrived. My mother cried. My aunts panicked. I stood still. Staring. Not out of grief, but because I knew that if I hadn't switched glasses, I would have been the one carried out on a stretcher. Later that night, when the house was empty, I took what was left of the wine in his glass and sealed it in a vial. 3 days later, a lab technician handed me a sheet of paper. Barbiturate. High dose. Fatal if left untreated. Poison. I drove home in silence, the report burning a hole in my coat pocket. I thought about the $5 million in my bank account. I thought about the lack of a wife or children. About how, if I died, Gerald would inherit everything. It wasn't just control he wanted. He wanted me dead. I returned to the house. My mother met me at the door, her eyes wary. "He's in the living room," she whispered. I walked in and found him sitting with a blanket over his lap and a glass of wine, again, in his hand. I dropped the report on the table. "You tried to kill me." He blinked, smiled, then tried to laugh. But I saw the panic in his eyes. "I swapped the glasses," I said. "That's why you collapsed. I have proof. Either you confess now, or I go to the police." He broke. His hands shook. His lips trembled. "I was desperate," he whispered. "The debt, the failure. I didn't want to hurt you. Just, make it easy." "Make what easy?" I hissed. "Stealing my life?" He didn't respond. Just wept. But the final blow came from my mother. She had overheard everything. She took my hand and whispered, "Marcus, I think he killed my father too." We searched the study. Found my grandfather's journal. One line written in shaky pen. "If anything happens to me, investigate Gerald." We did. With the help of a private investigator and a lawyer, we obtained court orders, dug through estate records, and exhumed my grandfather's body. Cause of death? Poison. Barbiturate. Forged signatures. Fake documents. Stolen wealth. It all pointed back to Gerald. The trial was long. The courtroom cold. But the verdict was swift. Guilty. Attempted murder. And first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life without parole. My mother moved in with me. We sold the old house. Buried the past. And every evening now, she sits on the patio, trimming lavender in the fading light. "Are you okay?" I ask her sometimes. She always smiles. "I am now. We're safe." I nod. We are. But some ghosts don't leave. Some scars don't fade. I still wear the green shirt sometimes, the one she loves, like armor. Because surviving family is the hardest war of all. If this story hit you deep, tap like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more true stories that expose the dark truths behind closed doors. Your voice matters. And so do these stories.